There's a lie that almost all men hear from a young age. They say that to win someone over, you have to chase after them. They say that to avoid missing opportunities, you have to be persistent. They say that when faced with fear, the secret is to act quickly before it's too late. But what if these beliefs are destroying your strength without you even realizing it? The truth is that many men spend years chasing people, approval, recognition, and validation without realizing that the more they chase, the less power they possess. The more they beg, the less respect they receive. The more they panic, the more wrong their decisions become. And the most dangerous thing is that nobody teaches this. On the contrary, most encourage precisely the behaviors that weaken a man from the inside. Machiavelli observed something that remains as true today as it was centuries ago. Those who wield the greatest influence are rarely the most needy. They are the most controlled. While most react emotionally, they remain calm. While most beg for opportunities, they build value. While most lose their heads in the face of crises, they see possibilities. In this video, you'll discover a rule that separates ordinary men from truly dangerous men. A rule that doesn't depend on money, looks, or social standing. A rule based on real human nature. You'll understand why strong men never chase, never beg, and never panic. And when you deeply understand this, you may never see your relationships, your career, and your own identity the same way again. If something inside you awakened while listening, don't ignore that feeling. This channel isn't about videos, it's about memories. Remember who you were before the fear, before the exhaustion, before the silence. Each new video here is a different reflection of your own soul, an invitation to understand what the world never taught you. The power you seek outside has always been within you. If you feel that this journey speaks to what lives silently within you, sign up now. Not to follow yet another creator, but to reconnect with something the world tried to make you forget. Because here, every word was made to heal, each reflection to awaken, and each video serves as a reminder. You are not alone on the path back to yourself. Click on subscribe and turn the algorithm into a daily reminder of who you really are. There is a silent difference between men who wield influence and those who live trying to acquire it. Most believe that power is born from the ability to persuade, insist, or pursue opportunities at any cost. But when one closely observes the men who truly occupy prominent positions, a curious pattern emerges. They rarely chase after things. Not because they are arrogant or indifferent, but because they understand something that few comprehend. The more someone demonstrates a desperate need for attention, validation, or approval, the less value they transmit to the world. It is an invisible rule of real human nature. People tend to desire what seems scarce, difficult to access, and capable of surviving without it. This is exactly what Machiavelli observed when studying rulers, generals, and leaders throughout history. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, shows that the perception of value influences more than emotional speeches. When a man begins to pursue everything he desires without criteria, he surrenders his position of power. His energy ceases to be directed towards building and becomes consumed by the attempt to persuade. And the most curious thing is that the more he runs, the farther away the goal seems to get. It's like trying to grasp water with closed hands. The more force you apply, the less result you see. Think of someone who begs for attention in a relationship, chases professional recognition, or desperately seeks social approval. Most of the time, people's reaction isn't admiration, it's discomfort. This happens because excessive neediness communicates dependence, and dependence reduces authority. Powerful men understand that their main focus should be on increasing their own value. They invest in knowledge, health, skills, and results. Instead of chasing people, They build a life that naturally sparks interest. This logic is deeply connected to the concept of virtù and fortuna. Luck favors the prepared, not the desperate. Therefore, instead of spending hours trying to convince someone to stay, they direct that time toward evolving. Instead of insisting on closed doors, they build new ones. Instead of begging for opportunities, they become so useful that opportunities begin to seek them out. This doesn't mean emotional coldness or isolation. It means understanding one's own value without turning it into a bargaining chip. And it is precisely at this point that a disturbing question arises. If chasing after someone weakens a man so much, what then is the true weapon of those who seem to exert influence without saying almost anything? Most people believe that power is associated with the number of words one can utter. They think that victory belongs to whoever argues the most, responds the fastest, or always has a ready explanation for everything. But reality often works very differently. The men who wield the most influence generally possess a rare skill. They know when to speak and, above all, when to remain silent. Machiavelli understood that many battles are won before they even begin, not through direct confrontation, but through the control of perceptions. A man who reacts to everything becomes predictable. A man who needs to respond to every criticism surrenders control of his emotions to others. But he who masters silence creates something powerful: mystery. And where there is mystery, there is attention. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, teaches that people often interpret silence as strength. When someone remains calm in the face of provocation, they convey the feeling that they possess inner resources that others cannot see. This does not mean being passive. It means acting with intention. Strategic silence is not the absence of action. It is a calculated action that avoids wasting energy. Imagine a work environment where someone tries to belittle a professional in front of colleagues. The expected reaction would be an immediate defense, an argument, or a desperate attempt to prove one's worth. But the man who understands true human nature knows that not every battle is worth fighting. Often, the best response is to continue producing results while others waste energy talking. In time, facts do the work that arguments never could. This is a practical manifestation of the appearance of virtue, combined with the calculated use of force. It's not always necessary to show all the weapons one possesses. In many cases, it's enough to allow others to reveal their weaknesses while one's own position remains intact. Silence also works in relationships, negotiations, and even family conflicts. Those who talk too much often reveal insecurities, intentions, and fears. Those who observe more than they speak gather valuable information, and information is power. Influential men understand that every word spoken must have a purpose. They don't feel the need to fill every empty space because they know that often silence forces others to reveal themselves. And when someone begins to master this kind of internal control, they realize something even more uncomfortable. It's not the desperate words that destroy a man, but rather the need to utter them. There comes a time in almost every man's life when he is tempted to beg for love, for attention, for a second chance, for recognition, or even for respect. On the surface, this seems like just a display of vulnerability. But at a deeper level, something far more dangerous is happening. When a man begs, he relinquishes the responsibility for his own worth to another. He begins to act as if his happiness depends on someone else's decision. And that's exactly where the silent erosion of self-esteem begins. Machiavelli understood that power never remains with those who voluntarily surrender it. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, shows that people value what they choose to achieve, not what is offered to them in a state of desperation. When someone begs for permanence, they communicate scarcity. When they beg for attention, they communicate dependence. When they beg for validation, They communicate self-doubt. And real human nature reacts to this almost automatically. Respect begins to diminish, attraction weakens, authority disappears. Not because people are bad, but because they realize that that man has ceased to be the source of their own equilibrium. The problem is that most people only realize this too late, after countless unanswered messages, after promises that should never have been made, after negotiations where they abandoned their principles to try to keep someone around. The end justifies the means is a phrase often misinterpreted. Many believe it authorizes any action to achieve a goal. But a wise man understands that some victories are too costly. If achieving something requires abandoning his dignity, then defeat has already occurred before the result arrives. That's why strong men learn to replace necessity with choice. Instead of saying, "I need you to stay," they think, "I would like you to stay, but I will remain whole if you leave." Instead of humiliating themselves for opportunities, they become prepared enough to create new ones. This attitude requires virtù and fortuna because it's not always easy to endure loss without chasing after it. But it is precisely in this resistance that identity is strengthened. Little by little, the man realizes that he doesn't need to control others to control his own life. And when that understanding finally sets in, something even more challenging emerges on the horizon: the ability to remain steadfast when fear tries to take over. Few things cause more destruction in a man's life than panic. Interestingly, it's not the problem itself that usually brings him down, but how he reacts to it. When fear takes control, the mind begins to create imaginary scenarios, anticipate tragedies, and see threats where there are often only temporary challenges. A relationship ends, and he believes he'll never find anyone again. A business fails, and he concludes his financial life is over. He receives criticism and spends days wondering what others think of him. Panic transforms small obstacles into gigantic monsters. Machiavelli observed that the most effective leaders were not those who never felt fear, but those who prevented fear from governing their decisions. Politics guided by reality, not ideals, requires the ability to see facts as they are, not as emotions distort them. When a man enters a state of panic, he stops analyzing reality and begins to react to phantoms created by his own mind. And it is precisely at this moment that he usually makes the worst decisions of his life. Just observe how many mistakes stem from emotional urgency. People sell investments out of fear at the worst possible moment. They accept bad relationships because they fear loneliness. They make promises they can't keep just to avoid immediate conflict. Panic always exacts a high price because it shortens the vision of the future. Everything starts to seem like an emergency. But truly strong men develop a different habit. Before acting, they create space between the event and the response. When they receive bad news, they don't rush to react. When they face a loss, they don't allow emotion to decide for them. This is a practical manifestation of constant adaptability. They understand that life changes rapidly and that many crises disappear on their own when they are not fueled by despair. Better to be feared than loved is an idea often associated with external power, but there is a powerful internal application. A man needs to learn to command respect for his own emotions. He cannot allow his impulses to govern his mind, because when fear ceases to command, something interesting happens. Space emerges to build a more strategic, more controlled, and much more difficult to decipher identity. And it is precisely at this point that many begin to present a new face to the world. One of the greatest follies a man can commit is believing that the world automatically rewards absolute authenticity. From an early age, many people learn that simply being completely transparent, revealing everything they think, and exposing every emotion is enough to gain trust and respect. But reality rarely works that way. Machiavelli understood something that remains true centuries later. People don't see who someone really is. They see what they are able to perceive. And between reality and perception lies a vast space. It is in this space that the so-called Machiavellian mask is born. This is not about falsehood or gratuitous manipulation. It's about understanding that not everyone deserves unrestricted access to a man's thoughts, plans, and vulnerabilities. Politics guided by reality, not ideals, teaches that excessive exposure often generates unnecessary fragility. Those who reveal everything about themselves lose a valuable advantage: the ability to choose what to show, when to show it, and to whom to show it. Real human nature means that information is used in unpredictable ways. Therefore, strategic men learn to protect important parts of themselves without losing their essence. Think about how many times someone has shared grand plans prematurely and received criticism, discouragement, or envy disguised as advice. Or how many times they've revealed deep insecurities to people who later use that information against them. The wise man doesn't live hidden, but neither does he live exposed. He understands the value of the appearance of virtue. In many moments, the image conveyed has as much impact as the inner reality. This explains why influential leaders often demonstrate calm even when facing difficulties, not because they don't feel pressure, but because they understand that projecting a lack of control generates negative consequences for everyone around them. The Machiavellian mask is the ability to govern one's own image without becoming a prisoner of it. It's smiling when necessary, remaining silent when convenient, and always acting with purpose. This requires virtù and fortuna, because maintaining a balance between authenticity and strategy is no simple task. However, as a man develops this skill, he realizes something transformative. The true battlefield has never been in the opinions of others. It has always been within himself, and whoever wishes to dominate the external world must first conquer sovereignty over their own emotional universe. Most men spend their lives believing that freedom means doing whatever they want. But there is a form of slavery far more common and far more dangerous than any physical prison: emotional slavery. A man can have money, status, influence, and still live chained to his own reactions. A single criticism is enough to lose control. A single rejection is enough to destroy his confidence. A single setback is enough to turn his entire day into a mental battlefield. This is why emotional sovereignty is one of the greatest demonstrations of strength one can develop. Machiavelli understood that governing a city was difficult, but governing oneself was even more complex. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, requires a man to see his emotions without becoming a hostage to them. Feeling fear is not weakness. Feeling anger is not weakness. Feeling sadness is not either. True weakness arises when these emotions take control of decisions. When this happens, a man ceases to be the ruler of his own life and becomes a passenger driven by circumstances. And whoever is driven by circumstances never builds anything lasting. Observe the men who seem unshakable in the face of adversity. Many imagine they were born stronger or more confident, but the truth is often less glamorous. They have simply learned to cultivate emotional discipline. When faced with loss, they don't allow it to define their identity. When rejected, they don't turn the episode into a judgment about their worth. When praise is given, they don't become dependent on it either. This attitude is deeply connected to the idea of better to be feared than loved. First and foremost, a man needs to earn respect within his own mind. His emotions need to recognize that there is a higher authority commanding the system. This doesn't happen overnight. It can begin with small actions, waiting a few minutes before responding to a message that irritated him, breathing before making an important decision, reflecting before reacting impulsively. It seems simple, but it is these small internal victories that build great emotional fortresses. Over time, he realizes that he doesn't need to control the behavior of others to preserve his peace. And when that emotional independence finally blossoms, an even more powerful strategy emerges, one that few dare to apply because it demands something most deeply: fear. Distance. There's a reason why some people become more valued when they withdraw. And no, this doesn't happen by chance. Absence possesses a psychological power that constant presence can never replicate. When something is available all the time, the brain tends to take it for granted. It's a natural behavior of real human nature. Perceived value diminishes when there's no risk of loss. That's why many men make a silent mistake. They believe that demonstrating unlimited availability is proof of commitment. They are always present, always accessible, always responding immediately, always sacrificing their own interests to meet the expectations of others. Over time, they become predictable. And what is predictable rarely inspires admiration. Machiavelli understood that influence depends not only on presence, but also on the ability to control one's own availability. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, shows that not every approach strengthens a position. In certain circumstances, strategic withdrawal produces more impact than any attempt at persuasion, not because it manipulates people, but because it allows them to feel the weight of what they previously considered guaranteed. This can be observed in virtually every area of life. A professional who learns to value their time is treated differently. A man who doesn't abandon his goals to meet every demand conveys a powerful message without needing to say it. Even in relationships, healthy distance creates space for each person to preserve their individuality. The problem is that many confuse distance with coldness or indifference. These are completely different things. The strategy of distance is not about disappearing to provoke reactions. It's about not abandoning one's own mission to live exclusively for others. This is where a practical application of the calculated use of force arises. Not all influence requires direct action. Sometimes the greatest demonstration of value is continuing to advance towards one's own goals, while the rest of the world continues its own battles. Strong men don't use distance as punishment. They use it as protection. They protect their focus, their energy, their principles, and their time, because they understand that what is precious needs to be managed wisely. And when a man finally learns to walk alone without feeling the need for constant validation, he discovers an even rarer form of power: the ability to become whole without depending on anyone. Few achievements transform a man as much as self-sufficiency. And no, this doesn't mean living in isolation, rejecting help, or believing you don't need anyone. It means something much deeper: developing the ability to remain steadfast even when external support disappears. Most people build their stability on factors they don't control. They depend on the approval of others to feel valuable. They depend on favorable circumstances to maintain confidence. They depend on praise to stay motivated. The problem is that everything that depends on the external world can disappear overnight. Machiavelli observed that intelligent rulers avoided building their power on fragile foundations. That's why he valued having their own loyal armies instead of relying excessively on external forces. This idea has a powerful application in personal life. A man needs to build internal resources capable of sustaining him during the inevitable storms of existence. Politics guided by reality, not ideals, shows that true security doesn't come from the absence of problems. It comes from the ability to face them without collapsing. The more self-sufficient someone becomes, the less vulnerable they are to the fluctuations of others' opinions, circumstances, and momentary results. Self-sufficiency begins with small, everyday decisions. A man decides to learn skills that increase his independence. He takes care of his own health without depending on fleeting motivation. He develops financial discipline so as not to live as a hostage to emergencies. He reads good books such as The Prince, Meditations, and Think and Grow Rich because he understands that his mind needs to be strengthened in the same way that his muscles do. Little by little, he stops looking for magical solutions and begins to trust more in his own capacity for adaptation. This is the essence of virtù and fortuna. Luck continues to exist, but it ceases to be the only hope. Constant adaptability transforms into a silent competitive advantage. When obstacles arise, he looks for alternatives. When doors close, he builds new paths. When he loses something important, he doesn't lose himself along with it. It is at this stage that an almost imperceptible change occurs. The man stops living in a state of scarcity and begins to live in a state of inner abundance. He no longer needs to chase, beg, or panic because he has learned to be his own foundation. And when someone reaches that level of emotional, mental, and strategic independence, they are prepared to make a silent commitment that few manage to fulfill to the end. There comes a moment in some men's lives when something changes forever. It doesn't happen with fanfare. There's no public ceremony, no applause, immediate recognition, or visible overnight transformation. It's a silent decision, a commitment made away from the eyes of the world. After experiencing rejection, loss, disappointment, betrayal, and failure, he finally understands a truth that few accept. No one will come to save him. And curiously, this realization doesn't weaken him. It liberates him. At that moment, he makes a vow to himself. He decides he will never again surrender his peace to circumstances. He decides he will not beg for attention. He decides he will not chase after those who wish to leave. He decides he will not allow fear to guide his choices. Machiavelli understood that true power does not arise from the ability to control others, but from the ability to control oneself. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, teaches that inner stability is worth more than any temporary external advantage. The untouchable man is not the one who never suffers. He is the one who is not destroyed by suffering. He feels life's pains like anyone else, but he doesn't allow them to define who he is. This silent vow produces profound changes. He begins to make decisions based on real human nature, not on fantasies about how he would like the world to work. He learns to avoid being hated without becoming a slave to the approval of others. He understands the value of the appearance of virtue without losing his essence. He uses the calculated use of force when necessary, but does not waste energy on petty battles. He discovers that better to be feared than loved does not mean inspiring fear in others, but rather cultivating such solid respect that no one can easily manipulate his emotions. With each challenge faced, he strengthens his inner structure. With each loss overcome, he increases his confidence. With each obstacle conquered, he understands that virtue and fortune walk hand in hand, but that his responsibility always lies in what he can control. This man does not become untouchable because the world stops attacking him. He becomes untouchable because the world loses the ability to govern his mind. And when someone reaches that level of mastery, they discover something that most will spend their entire lives searching for without finding. A freedom that doesn't depend on money, status, recognition, or circumstances. A freedom that is born from the soul itself and that no one can take away. Throughout this video, one idea became increasingly clear. The man who chases after everything ends up losing himself. The man who begs surrenders his power. The man who panics abandons his ability to think. And the man who learns to overcome these three weaknesses begins to build a strength that few people can comprehend. But now comes the most important question of all. What will you do with this knowledge? Because knowing these ideas is easy. Applying them is difficult when life tests your discipline. Remaining silent when your impulses want to react is difficult. Maintaining dignity when someone decides to leave is difficult. Controlling your mind when fear tries to take over is difficult. It is precisely in these moments that the difference between theory and transformation becomes apparent. Stop for a few seconds and reflect. In which areas of your life are you still chasing after something? Where are you still seeking validation from people who don't control your destiny? How many recent decisions were made out of conviction, and how many were made out of fear? These questions may be uncomfortable, but it is precisely this discomfort that paves the way for growth. Machiavelli understood that true power never lay in the ability to control others. It always lay in the ability to control oneself. Politics, guided by reality, not by ideals, demands the courage to see the truth. It demands constant adaptability. It demands decisions based on real human nature. It demands the willingness to abandon habits that weaken and build habits that strengthen. So make a commitment to yourself, a silent commitment. From today onward, don't give up your peace so easily. Don't let rejection define your worth. Don't let fear govern your choices. Don't let need destroy your dignity. Become the man who stands firm when others crumble. The man who keeps moving forward when others give up. The man who doesn't depend on the world's approval to believe in himself. Now I want to hear from you. What was the most powerful lesson from this video? Which part did you identify with the most? And what change do you intend to apply to your life today? Leave your answer in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want to continue learning about Machiavelli, human nature, power, influence, discipline, and self-control, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because the next videos will show principles that most people go their whole lives without understanding. See you in the next video.